And good Friday afternoon to all of you. I'm Brady Tinker. This is Off of the Helmets talking Dallas Cowboys football, courtesy, as always, of East Coast Sports Investors. The final 8 football teams included your Dallas Cowboys. They have 24 wins in their last 2 years, and they are keeping the 2 most important coaches on this staff, the head coach and the defensive coordinator, who get along, who work very well in tandem together from game to game and from day to day. Hey, this is going to be a bit more of an offensive game. Hey, this is going to be a really good defensive game. And they make game plans that way. And now Mike McCarthy is officially, unofficially, your head coach and your offensive coordinator. And yes, Brian Schottenheimer has been hired, but we'll talk about all that. Free agency is in play for the Dallas Cowboys. The draft at number 26 is likely to offer a really good player, and there might be a chance this team moves up. So trades, the draft, free agency, all in play, plus a new offensive scheme, which makes your overpaid quarterback at least more palatable, especially if he, say, runs 10 to 12 times a game. All that coming up right now on Off of the Helmets talking Dallas Cowboys football. So I'm Brady Tinker, and thank you very much for joining me on this Friday afternoon. You know, one of the great things about the NFL, especially when you have a good football team, is there's almost no downtime, right? We got an extra game this year. We're only votes away from having an extra game either next year or the year before. And essentially, you'll get done with the Super Bowl in the middle of February, and you'll already be almost to the combine in Indianapolis. You'll already have lots of cuts coming and coaches changing. And the NFL's 24/7, 12 months out of the year. Now, if they can only figure out what to do with their officiating situation and generally their rules, because the rule book used to be this wide, then it was this wide. Now it's so wide, we have people in the booth trying to explain to the people in the booth who actually know the rules, what the rules are and why they did what they did. I wanted replay, as did my good friend Jeff Dawson, host of everything that happens on East Coast Sports Investors. We all did. We wanted the right call. At what price? We have seen it. Officiating, we'll have that conversation later, or maybe never. We can just stay pissed off about it. So Super Bowl 57 concludes in a wonderful game. The Kansas City Chiefs win 38-35 over a Philadelphia Eagles team. And if you talk to an Eagles fan, they're all pissed off. One in my parking lot the other day that I really like, I came out and he's like, we got screwed. I said, dude, if it'd been the other way around, your team would have wanted the call. The cornerback who held twice on the play in the locker room after the game said, I held him. I was hoping I'd get away with it. And by the way, your vaunted Eagle defense that led the world in sacks, almost set an NFL record for sacks, got 0. That defense was ranked overall number 2 or 3 in the NFL, got no turnovers. They put very little pressure on a guy with a bad ankle. The defense did not come through. The special teams gave up a 65-yard punt return, which when the Chiefs already had momentum, cemented the momentum in the second half. And the bottom line was your young Sirianni, who put together a good team and who from last year to this year got his team better and better, mostly because of Jalen Hurts, got his ass out-coached. Andy Reid coached him under the table. They are giggling and tickling and eating burgers in Kansas City left and right because Andy Reid was so ready for the second half that his team went out and scored on 4 straight possessions against a defense that there is no way in hell you can score four straight times. Only the Chiefs did. My question to you is, what did the final 4 teams, not just the Super Bowl teams, what did the final 4 teams show the Dallas Cowboys and their fans that those teams had that your team didn't? Right? KC, Philly, San Francisco, and Cincinnati, I would have to say, and you would have to agree, please, were all clearly better, not just because they got to the championship games, but they were clearly better than the Dallas Cowboys. They all sustain drives better, especially drives when it really matters. That drive where you say, 2 minutes left until halftime. 5 minutes left in the game, down 2 scores. How do we handle not only getting points, but getting them in a timely fashion? What plays do we have up our sleeve, i.e. what Andy Reid had in store for Philadelphia, where he ends up getting 2 touchdown passes on 3rd down in the red zone against the vaunted Eagles defense, and both wide receivers are wide fucking open. That's coaching. That's coaching. And I'm sure I don't want to get into it, but that's how the Eagles were passing receivers. Any fast receiver going in motion this way was not going to be chased across the formation by that cornerback, so they're passing them off. Only Andy Reid said, what if they go really fast, they get passed off, they slam on the brakes, and they go back where they were? How does that guy pass him back to that guy who already passed him to that guy? The answer was he doesn't, and he'll be wide open. And Kadarius Toney was wide open over there, and their rookie was wide open over here, and the Chiefs scored 2 unbelievably easy touchdowns in third down in the red zone because of Andy Reid and because of Eric Bieniemy and because of coaching and the opportunity in a 2-week period to get ready for that game. You can't beat Andy Reid when he has an extra week off. So what do we want? I want them to say that about Mike McCarthy. That's what I want. You ain't getting Mahomes, but you can get really, really good coaching. And I would tell you that I firmly believe Mike McCarthy and Dan Quinn have done a really wonderful job with this Cowboys team in the last 2 years. 24 wins is nothing to sneeze at. So what do? Got to sustain drives better. Got to make the quarterback better. And he's probably not going to get a lot better at reading defenses, at not panicking when he sees something he's not supposed to see, at not recognizing that a cornerback can probably drop underneath a move and have an interception. All that's probably not going to get a lot better. So how do we make him better? We run the ball more. He runs the ball more. We get another really good, dependable wide receiver, and we go to a West Coast short passing timing offense, because when Dak's at his best, it's 1, 2, 3 and out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and out, out, timing. It's what San Francisco does. How does San Francisco go through what ended up being 4 quarterbacks and end up one of the final 4 best teams in the NFL? Because their offense, their offensive coordinator, and their head coach are fucking geniuses at putting this offense together to make you think everything's going to go that way, but we're going to go that way. And we're running it. So we're not taking an airplane to get there, but we're moving you here and then we're going here. It's what the Cowboys are going to work very hard to implement. It's something close to what Mike McCarthy did the entire time he was in Green Bay. So this isn't, anything that's completely out of the realm of, we'll never get there in time. They will. Sustain drives, make Dak better without him having to actually be better. Less penalties, less self-inflicted wounds. Turnovers were very good defensively. This Cowboy team led the NFL in turnovers for the 2nd straight year. Hasn't happened since the Steel Curtain years in Pittsburgh. It's impressive, but they turned the ball over too much on their side. More good players. Let's just be honest. If you closed your eyes and said, how many more good players does Cincinnati have, or does Philadelphia or Kansas City or San Francisco have than the Cowboys, just off the top of your head without going through a roster, you'd probably say 6. But if they have 6 more good players that are really good players, that's impactful. Okay, that's impactful. The other thing that I think all those teams had was depth. The Cowboys were very fortunate to make it through the season with the lack of offensive line depth that they had. In the end, wide receiver depth was a little bit shallow. Certainly, offensive line was the biggest issue. And then cornerback depth ended up being a problem too. And when you're revamping this team saying, hey, we're going running the football with a quick passing West Coast offense, and we're going to be a defensive team, then you better go get defenders and offensive linemen in the draft. And we'll get to that. Other things that happened in that game, especially, and in the final 4 teams, better coaching. And I don't mean that at all, because I've just said, I don't want Mike McCarthy gone and Dan Quinn gone. I mean, get them a few more good players so that they can do a better job of coaching and game planning and in-game adjustments. Mike McCarthy is taking over the play calling duties and will be the designer of the new offense. Brian Schottenheimer, Marty's son from years ago, who coached Kansas City and Cleveland and other teams with great success. Brian Schottenheimer is coming here. Schottenheimer was really at his best in Seattle in the early Russell Wilson days. What did they do? Play defense and ran the fuck out of the football. And then Russ could cook because play action pass always worked, because there was a simple play off of, well, we're running it great, so you're all at the line of scrimmage. There's not as many people back there. I'll throw a complete pass. Russ was never as good as we made him out to be. Brian Schottenheimer and certainly Pete Carroll made Russ look better than he was, and we now know that. Dan Quinn comes back again. And I'm thrilled Dan Quinn is back, and I'm actually shocked. So you should feel, to be honest with you, and I never say this to you, you should feel a certain way. You should feel that you're lucky that Dan Quinn is back, because I believe Dan Quinn could have had at least 2 NFL jobs. Maybe he's been here long enough that he's really, really comfortable with the Jones family. I know he's making exceptional money for a defensive coordinator. That goes without saying. And maybe he just got past the fact that he had this giant amount of disappointment that he and his wife felt and his family over the collapse against the Patriots some years back, where he really wanted to have one more chance at head coaching. Maybe he's been through enough therapy. He doesn't need that anymore. Whatever it is, Dan Quinn coming back is a great thing. One, all of his players like him. Two, the defense supports the offense like crazy, so there is great harmony within the locker room. Three, free agents are going to want to come to play for Dan Quinn's team. There were, 4 Pro Bowlers on that team, 2 of them first-team guys, and I kept telling you every week, 19 guys played today for the defense and got between 17 and 25 plays at the bottom of that play sheet. That means guys are happy. They're getting on the field. They're not just playing special teams. They're playing football, and they're contributing to a winning team. Dan Quinn is a blessing for this team, as is keeping both of these coaches. As you look towards needs, I said 6 players maybe is how many this team needs to be better. You're going to lose. There's a turnover of an NFL roster most years between 20 and 33%. Okay, it's a salary cap league, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Guys let you down. Guys were hurt. Guys finished the season hurt, whatever it may be. You decided you didn't like them. There wasn't a lot of pissing and moaning on this team. Most everybody that was here would like to come back. Okay, so needs. Offensive line depth, clearly. A wide receiver at least. This running back thing is going to change maybe dramatically, so maybe you may need 2 or 3 running backs, to be honest with you, but we'll get to that. And then a defensive playmaker of any sort. Cornerback probably is at the top of the list because Anthony Brown, probably coming off an injury, does not return, and you need at least one more really good cornerback because you're going to play 2 deep quite a bit, which means they're going to throw quicker, shorter passes. You're going to need another playmaker. And it would be great if it was a shutdown corner. I can't really remember the last shutdown corner that came into this league, nor the last true shutdown corner that was Dion-like that I've seen in a long time. There are some that are pretty damn good, but I would like to see a defensive playmaker with that pick at 26, if you don't move up, that comes in and makes the impact, silly, of Micah Parsons, but not that. But what I'm saying is, I don't care who it is you draft for on defense or at offensive tackle. Make sure he's really fucking good. Make damn sure. And Will McClay's been very good at that. If you go through the last 10 years of drafts here, Will McClay and his team and his scouts have been phenomenal. Are there some Taco Charltons? Certainly there are. But there are also quite a few 3rd, 4th, and 5th round players that have made giant impacts. We'll get to those. So who's on the roster or was on the roster that needs to get better? So they're coming back. Jabril Cox is one. Jabril Cox, a 2021 4th-round draft pick, basically did not give you anything in 21. In 2022, quote, early in the season, he told us, I'm in top form. I'm feeling fantastic. Great. He still couldn't get on the field. Leighton Vander Esch was better. Anthony Barr, the late acquisition that they got on a 1-year deal from Minnesota, apparently was better. I'm disappointed in that, but apparently he was. So that's what kept him off the field. He ends up playing some special teams. And to be honest with you, he wasn't even important on special teams because Luke Gifford, who's been here forever as a young backup, was better on special teams and could play linebacker almost as good as Jabril Cox. How is that possible? So this is an offseason where Jabril Cox makes or breaks his career. Remember, the NFL stands for not for long. Jabril, the clock is ticking on you having a successful NFL career and getting all that money that everybody wants you to get. Wide receiver Jalen Tolbert, inactive almost the entire season of his rookie year. Did not pick up the offense fast enough, was not tough enough, nor mentally tough enough, could not count on him. And I remember still, I think the second preseason game of the year, Tolbert runs a beautiful route in the back of the end zone, and somebody throws him a touchdown. I think it was the backup, and he catches it beautifully, and he goes 1-2, and his right foot is 6 inches out of bounds. Wasn't anyone near him, and I'm like, well, he played at South Alabama. Maybe he just doesn't get it, but that had me worried. On the other hand, the move is beautiful. His hips are fast. His feet are fast. 4'4", 40, 6'1", 200 pounds. Yes, and yes. That's how he got drafted in the 3rd round. And the West Coast offense that is coming, this short, quick version, asks for guys who have very fast feet, who get in and out of their breaks, which I believe Jalen Tolbert does, and who catch the ball and are dependable about that. Now, he had some drops. It would help if Jalen Tolbert could make an impact on this team where he was in a rotation of 5 wide receivers, no offense, instead of Noah Brown. Just my opinion. Cornerback Kelvin Joseph. When I say that, you may be throwing things at your computer or TV screen. Please do not do that. Watch closely. This is year number 3 coming up for Kelvin Joseph. And when you really watch him, if you watch him without hating him, you see speed. You see a guy that almost all the time is standing next to the guy that he's supposed to be covering. He just never knows where the football is. Those are nuances that, because honestly, most of the time when that happens, he's not supposed to be looking at the ball until the wide receiver turns and looks. I never understood that, to be honest with you. If you've got athletes who can move their hips and who need to see the ball, which certainly Diggs does, he takes his opportunities and he doesn't really give a shit what everyone thinks. Diggs is always looking at the football, which will work against you sometimes. But overall, turnovers are bigger than the occasional 18-yard out that you gave or the double move that cost you 40. We can live with some of that. Kelvin Joseph has to find a way to be better, certainly more dependable and more confident on the football field, because don't forget, he was a second-round pick. You may not even remember the name Matt Waletzko, North Dakota. When we were in California, people really thought Matt Waletzko was going to be something. 6'8", 325, in shape, et cetera, et cetera. Injuries got to him early. His season was over, I think, mid-October. It was a shoulder injury, not great for a guy that big who basically lifts weights for a living. 5th-round pick in 22, and he's a tackle. It would be nice if Matt Waletzko could contribute, even if it was as a backup. Quarterbacks, Cooper Rush and Will Grier, I both will be free agents. Cooper Rush is probably not coming back to this team, not because he doesn't deserve to, but because he won 4 games in a row. Statistics were not phenomenal, but the best statistic was he ran the offense beautifully, and they won 4 games in a row until he blew up against Philadelphia in week 6. He earned himself a backup payday for teams that think they're great and have the room of maybe $5 million a year. I don't see the Cowboys paying a backup quarterback $5 million a year. So probably Cooper Rush, thank you very much for resurrecting and saving this season when we all thought it was over in week 1, is probably gone somewhere else. If you can keep Cooper Rush for $2.2 million, then you do it. Cowboys free agents. Let's consider these together, if you would. Who do you want to keep? Remembering, well, we'll get to it, but probably a not restructuring, but an extension of Dak Prescott is coming. Dalton Schultz falls off the books, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There may be as much as $38 or $9 million of salary cap space for the Cowboys to spend as this off-season free agency / trade period / draft period begins. That would put them in a really good position, but it doesn't include keeping Dalton Schultz. It does include extending Dak Prescott. Get used to it. Dalton Schultz gone. 2 tight ends this year played very, very well. Some think that, and I'm blanking on his name, but the 3rd-round pick could really be a really good player. So we'll see. Anthony Brown, cornerback, might have gotten a deal from the Cowboys. He has been a good player for a long time, because I doubted, and I think you doubted Anthony Brown from the day he got here. And from the day he got here, he's been better than we thought. Better than we thought. Generally in the right place. Knows his assignments. Pretty decent tackler for a cornerback who's that small. I don't hate Anthony Brown. And the truth is, that is the way you make a lot of decisions in the NFL. It's a 52-man roster on Sunday. There's 17 more on the practice squad. There's 70 guys you've got to get on this roster for a certain amount of money. So sometimes you say, he's where he's supposed to be. He understands the defense or the offense, whatever it may be. And you know what? He's been a good Cowboy. He doesn't bitch. He shows up. He practices. He looked at film. That's Anthony Brown. You know what? Bring him back. Except that Anthony Brown now is coming off a pretty serious injury and probably is going to get a little more money than the Cowboys want to pay. I think they'll move on. Leighton Vander Esch. This one's odd. He was great. As we remember his rookie year, we were all howling like a wolf, right? He was so good. He made Jalen Smith look great. And they both got contracts, or Jalen got a contract out of the deal. So good for him. I'm a Jalen Smith fan, by the way. But Leighton Vander Esch in 2nd year and the middle of his 3rd year had injury issues. And all of a sudden we're like, that ain't even the same player. I'm listening to Brad Cham on the radio saying, I'm not sure he can even play in the league anymore. And he was just being honest. Brad Cham is a phenomenal man. He was just saying what he saw. Not sure he can even play anymore. To year 4, last 8 games of the year, you know what? Much better. Much better. Making tackles in the right spot. Understands the defense so well he's getting people in the right spot. So they re-signed him in year 5 because he was cheap because of all the injuries, the neck and the spinal fusion and all of that. And he was actually pretty close to damn good last year. Damn good. So I have a feeling that the defensive coordinator certainly would like Leighton Vander Esch at 27 years old to come back and get everybody in the right spot again. I have a feeling that's the case. It may cost too much. It was pretty evident with his roughly 100 tackles for loss, and rarely making any mistakes. Plus, I don't believe he missed a game, that Leighton Vander Esch is now matured into a healthier, really good linebacker. So how much does it cost? Do I want him at the right cost? I absolutely do. 12 wins, everybody. We want as many people back who are on board and who understand all the systems as possible. Jonathan Hankins was a very quiet addition while we were all waiting for Odell Beckham Jr. Jonathan Hankins came in and plugged a hole at defensive tackle. There were a couple of injuries, Bohanna, et cetera, all of a sudden can't play. John Hankins was a big deal trade from the Raiders. He played a lot more plays for the Cowboys than he did at any time for the Raiders in the last year and a half. Pretty good. Do I want him back? I do. Everything that I understand, he was terrific in the locker room, just shut up, brought his lunch pail, and did what he was supposed to do. If you're going to improve on defense, you're going to end up being a little bit better stopping the run. We'll see what it costs. Guys, I really want back, not at all costs, but I really want to focus on Connor McGovern. Again, you may say, you're kidding me. Connor McGovern got better and better, ended up being a very good left guard, and can also play center. 26 years old. With that kind of versatility and that dependability, I think you'll get him at the right price. The Cowboys want Connor McGovern back, and so do I. This one's ticklish. I believe Tony Pollard is coming back. I believe the Cowboys will franchise tag him, and he'll make roughly between $10.5 and $11 million with a one-year franchise tag. In theory, if he had another, 1,400-yard, 12-touchdown season total, they could franchise him again next year if they wanted to. They're in control of this young man going into his 5th year at running back. Normally, 5th-year running backs, you're like, nope, we know the statistics. They've taken too many hits to the head, to the knees, to whatever. They don't last, okay? And we saw it with Zeke Elliott. Tony Pollard only had and has now 560 carries. He's got roughly the equivalent of 2 full running back NFL seasons on his young body. He doesn't play with extra weight. He plays with great quickness. I don't think we saw that go down at all. So I think we're not franchise tagging a running back, a runner. We're franchise tagging a playmaker. And I stole that from somebody, and I don't know who it was, but if you're listening, I realize I stole it from you. He's a playmaker. He's fast. He should catch next year 50, 55 passes, especially in this revamped West Coast short passing offense. Tony Pollard most likely stays with a franchise tag for 1 year, unless they draft a running back. We'll get back to that. Donovan Wilson, Texas A&M, 6th-round draft pick. How good was Donovan Wilson? How good has he gotten to be? And really, Donovan Wilson showed you something from the day he got here as a 6th-round draft pick. But now he's part of a trio of safeties in the Dan Quinn offense that, to be honest with you, are borderline spectacular. We want Donovan Wilson back. Terrence Steele. Again, it's another one you're like, the truth is, Terrence Steele, who we questioned on the right side of tackle, could he even play, was damn near perfect until he got hurt. Bad luck for him. Bad luck for the Cowboys because they were weaker at the offensive line position, but maybe good luck for the Cowboys because in missing those games, Terrence Steele's number probably stays palatable, and I believe and I hope Terrence Steele returns. 26 years old. Cowboys may have actually, as we sit here now, gotten lucky that Terrence Steele got hurt because it keeps his dollar value down. Jason Peters will be 42. Great in the locker room. Massive man, most likely going to the Hall of Fame. He will be 42, probably not. Noah Brown can't not make the Cowboy team. So as much as I say I'd like to see Jalen Tolbert play ahead of Noah Brown, I kind of expect Noah Brown to be on this football team because he's a phenomenal story. Came out too early from Ohio State, wasn't quite as good as he thought, and just perseveres and perseveres and perseveres and makes a lot of plays. Noah Brown. Doesn't matter to me one way or the other, but I think he's kind of good to have on the team. But T.Y. Hilton, 33 years old is what he will be, a free agent, but he's got very fast feet, great hips. He has wonderful hands, and he runs good routes. And now you're going to run this little West Coast offense. Boom, boom, bing, 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 open, timing. He catches the ball, and he runs good routes. At a discount rate, Yes, I'm interested, especially looking at what the final roster looked like of wide receivers. If T.Y. Hilton's number of plays can go up to 25, he's a genuine contributor on this team next year. And again, you're looking for the future. Steven's job is to look for the future, and Will McClay's and everybody else's. Jerry and you and I are looking at the same thing. At least 12 more wins, and let's get to an NFC championship game at least. That's how you're going to think about this, and I promise you that's how the owner's thinking about it. That's why you're extending Dak Prescott. In free agency, we will get to this. You may have forgotten, but it will not shock me. It will probably disappoint me, but it will not shock me if Odell Beckham Jr. signs with the Cowboys for 2 years at roughly $14 million each. Seems like an idiotic, risky gamble when there are better options, but it won't surprise me. Listen, coming off his third ACL, I don't give a shit how much you like him, how much he did for the Rams in a 3-game stint in the playoffs 2 years ago to help them win a Super Bowl. I don't care. Too many injuries, too much unpredictability, too much inconsistency in his personality, although from what I understand, that's been much better the last couple of years. Now there are rumors that Diggs and Diggs are going to play together, that the Buffalo wide receiver Diggs wants to play with the Dallas Cowboys cornerback Diggs, and the family Diggs will all be here in Dallas because the Cowboys are going to trade Buffalo for Diggs. They're not. DeAndre Hopkins, mentioned this to you last week, is interesting. DeAndre Hopkins is 30, may look a little older than that to you, but he still runs fantastic routes. He still catches every pass in his vicinity, and he's a really good player. And as we sit here, he's on a pretty damn good contract. $19 million for next year. That's $1 million less than the receiver that left that kind of pouted, but that was really good, that went to Cleveland, made. And the next year, he's in for $13 million because he made the 4th year of his contract incentive laden, which he knew he'd reach, only he didn't because he got suspended for 7 games and he missed another 7 or 8 games with injury. He didn't come anywhere close. So that 4th year is going to go down to $13 million. DeAndre Hopkins, gimme. CD, DeAndre Hopkins, and whatever else happens in the middle with 2 tight end formations, et cetera, and Dak Prescott has what he needs. Other options, Jacoby Myers, Patriots, big, pretty damn fast, catches the football, has never played with a good quarterback, ended up with 880 yards and 6 or 7 touchdowns this year. Jacoby Myers at roughly 26 can play. That would be nice, and it would certainly cost you less than DeAndre Hopkins. Those are options. The 23 draft, we'll be honest before we know it. What do the Cowboys do in the draft? Running team, defensive team, don't turn the football over. Okay. Get me cornerbacks because Anthony Brown is gone, and there were certainly some limitations with those who tried to replace him and or play in the slot. Get me a cornerback, maybe 2 in the draft. You can pick cornerback first as far as I'm concerned. I'll give you some names. A defensive stud in addition to that. Another linebacker if Van Der Esch doesn't come, et cetera, et cetera. Another playmaker. I don't care where he plays because Dan Quinn is so good at getting the best out of people. If it's a safety, fine. If it's a defensive tackle, fine. If it's another pass rushing defensive end, probably don't need it, but Tank does tend to get hurt. But if it's that, I'll live with it. Someone else who makes a genuine impact on that defense because of that defensive coordinator putting him in the right spot. We need this defense to be, at the end of the season, a top 3 or 4 defense if you're going to the NFC Championship game. So offensive line, cornerback, stud defensive player anywhere else. And then running back, round 5. Round 6, wide receiver, round 7. I'm all okay with that. And somewhere in there, they swear they're going to take a cornerback or a quarterback. I'm okay with that too. Here's the new level of excitement. It's for a running back in round 1, and it is local running back from the University of Texas, Bijan Robinson. The Doak Walker Award winner is phenomenal. He's quote, I love this one, the safest running back in an NFL draft since 2018 in Saquon Barkley. And you're thinking to yourself the same as me. Well, I've seen Saquon Barkley be really good, but hasn't he gotten hurt 6 times? Yes. First round running backs. You know how many got drafted in the first round last year at running back? None. The NFL doesn't do it anymore. You know how many running backs in the last 15 Super Bowl champions that started on teams that won Super Bowls made more than $2 million a year? One Super Bowl champion running back made more than $2 million a year in the last 15 years. It is not necessary. The league is telling you we're going to go with the committee, and it's going to work because in the NFL, teams ran for 126.1 yards per carry this year, the best since like 1984. They averaged 4.5 yards a carry, did the entire NFL running the football, 4.5 yards a carry. That's the best since ever. Never has the NFL averaged 4.5 yards a carry for every fucking running back that stepped on the football field. It's unbelievable because there are two safeties 40 yards from the ball, and the cornerbacks are backing up, and the odds and the metrics say make them pass it 7 yards at a time down the football field. They won't get there. That's what we're going to do. So running is up. Running backs and the numbers of running backs are up. Tell me feature running backs that are in all the time. Derrick Henry. Who else? Christian McCaffrey if he's not hurt. Who else? Nick Chubb, nope, he splits it with Kareem Hunt. Who else? So it's not a one-guy job anymore. It was with Emmitt Smith, it was a one-guy job. There was a guy that made more than $2 million, and he helped his team win 3 Super Bowls. Those days are over. The Cowboys dominated in those years because, one, they had more good players, and two, there was no salary cap. They had the best players, and they could afford all of them. It doesn't work anymore. The metrics say we don't draft a running back in the first round because here's what's going to happen. If you draft Bijan Robinson, let's say at 26, okay? And I will tell you, I just told you this is going to be a running team and a defensive team. We need to be great at running, and now I'm saying don't take Bijan Robinson. His rookie contract for 4 years with an option for a fifth is going to earn him about $7.5 million a year. Okay, if you sign Bijan, that's what he's going to get. From day one, he's going to get roughly $7.5 million a year. Do you know how many running backs in the NFL this year made more than $7.5 million? 8, I believe. 8. And I'll give you the names. McCaffrey. Okay, really good player, right? Been hurt forever. Zeke. Yeah, those first 2 years, even those first 3 years, hell yes, I'd pay him 7 right now. But the rest of them, the holdout, the bigger numbers. I love Zeke Elliott. And his agent did one hell of a job because Zeke Elliott has held the Cowboys hostage with that contract for the last 2.5 years, and you all damn well know it. And the same thing will happen with Bijan Robinson. Other names. Kamara, probably going to prison. Dalvin Cook, hurt a lot, pretty good. You want him to have the kind of money that changes your football team? No. Joe Mixon might be going to prison as well. Nick Chubb, been pretty good, but Kareem Hunt spells him, and Nick Chubb just runs the football very well 18 times a game. Saquon Barkley, injuries. Leonard Fournette, no thank you. James Conner, pretty good player, but making the kind of money that alters your team? No, 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 no. So if you're going to draft Bijan Robinson, be prepared. In the offseason after year 3, he's holding out. And the way money's going now, he's going to get $21 million a year for an additional 4 years from Stephen Jones and Jerry Jones because they love him so much, they can't not do it, and it's going to fuck your team for the next 3 years after that. Just get ready for it. So please, yes, it's a running team. Make it a running team because the design of the offense is fantastic and the offensive line has 4 Pro Bowlers on it. Make it a running team because of that. Then almost anybody can be effective because that is what the NFL is doing. So cornerbacks. I'm yes on a cornerback at pick 26. My battery is running low. Better wrap this up. Can't believe I'm not plugged in. What a pro. Cornerbacks. Brian Branch of Alabama, Joey Porter Jr., Christian Gonzalez of Oregon. Here's my 2 tops right now. Pick 26, Cam Smith of South Carolina and Devin Witherspoon of Illinois. Much, much more on this. At offensive tackle, that's another position I would be okay with. Let's see. Paris Johnson of Ohio State may cause you to trade up. Yes. Philadelphia, by the way, picks 10th and 30th in this draft, and they are set to draft defensive end Miles Murphy from Clemson. They're ahead. They're still ahead. So it's going to have to be coaching. The quarterback's going to have to get better. The West Coast offense is going to have to work for this thing to go where you want it to go. The Eagles are still ahead. I'm Brady Tinker. This is Off of the Helmets. I can't wait to talk to you next Friday. We'll go much, much deeper into the draft, and I'll find out who the Cowboys are going to draft and who the Cowboys are potentially going to trade for because they're going to have salary cap space because get ready for it. You're going to be cussing at the water cooler. Dak Prescott is going to get extended. I'm Brady Tinker. It's Off of the Helmets, courtesy of East Coast Sports Investors. I'll see you next Friday.